If Saturday Night Fever is the movie that made John Travolta a movie star, Staying Alive is the movie definitely that made that star fall in the 80s for a few years before he had his comeback. Hi, my name is Stacia, and I like to talk about movies here on my little corner of the internet. And this week's movie falls into the guilty pleasure category, the 1983 sequel to Saturday Night Fever, Staying Alive. This movie was directed by Sylvester Stallone. Yes, that Sylvester Stallone, Rocky and Rambo Sylvester Stallone, and he even is credited as the screenwriter of this movie, although it did have a screenplay that he rewrote, and of course it is based on a character previously written by, like I said, the cultural phenomena of the disco era, Saturday Night Fever, and Staying Alive is no cultural icon. John Travolta reprises his role of Tony Manero. He is the only character that returns for this movie. I guess there was a previous version of this movie that would have had other cast members in it, but Sylvester Stallone, when he was hired to direct, nixed that idea and wanted it to be Tony Manero's story. The film takes place 5 years after the events of what happened in Saturday Night Fever, and we pick up with Tony Manero trying to succeed as a dancer on Broadway. He has left Brooklyn and is in Manhattan now, and that's where the action takes place. He actually does get cast in a Broadway musical, and one of the main lead dancers in the Broadway musical. And the Broadway musical is called Satan's Alley. And yes, the Bee Gees are back to do some of the music in this. It's mainly music that was in Saturday Night Fever. So I hear that the Bee Gees actually had a dispute with Sylvester Stallone and actually walked off the movie, setting up Sylvester Stallone's brother, Frank Stallone, to do the music in the movie, some of the music in the movie, and giving us the iconic song Far From Over. Frank Stallone actually does appear in the movie. He is the rhythm guitarist in the club's band. And other cameos in this movie is Sylvester Stallone makes a little cameo appearance when he is bumped into on the street, and that was a nod to him or his appearance in the movie. And John Travolta is playing a more refined Tony Manero in this. He's lost the accent. He cusses less in this movie, although that probably has more to do with, instead of an R rating that Saturday Night Fever had, this is a PG rated movie, so more people could watch the film. That is actually a request from the studio to make this a PG rated movie. This movie also stars Cynthia Rhodes as Jackie, Finola Hughes as Laura. Yes, Finola Hughes, the one from General Hospital. That is her in this movie, and she's really, really young in this movie too. But yeah, this movie just boils down to Tony Manero's chance to make it on Broadway. And the lube budget for this movie must have been astronomical, because everybody who is in the play they are just shiny and sweaty the whole time. But John Travolta's body looks fantastic in this movie. This is from him training for months with Sylvester Stallone to get the body that he has in this movie. And it does pay off. If you're not familiar with earlier John Travolta, this is John Travolta at his peak. He kind of resembles Sylvester Stallone in this movie as well. He wears a headband for most of it. His hair kind of looks like Rambo hair. He'll remind you a lot of Sylvester Stallone. And even though this is, I'm not gonna tell you that this is a good movie. Is it a fun, hilarious movie to watch? Yes. That's what makes it a guilty pleasure. It is horrible in all the right ways. And even though the quality of the movie is suspect, let's say, and it doesn't rise to the level of Saturday Night Fever, of, cultural iconic status, it is remembered only as a guilty pleasure by most people, but it was very successful in 1983, to the point where the studio actually wanted Sylvester Stallone to team up with John Travolta again, make more movies. They gave Sylvester Stallone a 3-picture deal, and he didn't really make any of those movies any more movies in that 3-picture deal. It was one of the most successful movies at the box office in 1983, believe it or not. And one of the things that you should watch out for, and here are some of those, weird cameos besides Frank Stallone and Sylvester Stallone himself appearing in the movie. You also have Patrick Swayze is one of the background dancers in this movie. He's a dancer. He's wearing white suspenders for rehearsal of the show Satan's Alley in the Far From Over montage. So you should look out for that. And that does mean that he and Cynthia Rhodes are dancing together, or I think he catches her in the montage. I think it's towards the beginning of the montage that this happens. So if you're a Dirty Dancing fan, this is before Dirty Dancing, but that's something to look for in this movie. And not surprisingly, the reviews for Staying Alive were brutal at the time. You have Gene Siskel in the Chicago Tribune saying a typically weak sequel that has no legitimate artistic reason for being. You have Roger Ebert saying that Staying Alive is a big disappointment. Jay Carr from the Boston Globe said Staying Alive, the sequel to John Travolta's Saturday Night Fever, plays like wet cement. New York Times said this is one clumsy, mean-spirited, and it was amazingly unmusical. Variety said bottom line is that Staying Alive is nowhere near as good as its 1977 predecessor, Saturday Night Fever. TV Guide magazine, blast from the past for everybody with TV Guide magazine, said it was ill-conceived, pathetically realized follow-up to Saturday Night Fever. People definitely, the critics definitely weren't looking for a guilty pleasure type of movie, but that is exactly what we got here. Again, Staying Alive from 1983 is not a good watch, but it is a fun watch. It is one of those cheesy movies. Like, one of my all-time guilty pleasures is the movie Xanadu. I know it's not a good movie, but it holds a place in my heart. And sometimes you just need those really bad, goofy movies to get you through things. And Staying Alive is one of those movies for me. Every once in a while, I'll watch it again. It's just, it's so bad. I can't describe how bad it is. Even the musical within it, I don't know why anybody would put on the musical Satan's Alley. And it is, as much as Saturday Night Fever was so 70s, but culturally iconic, Staying Alive is so 80s, but in the worst way. Neon, spandex, the bright garish makeup, but no cultural relevance whatsoever. So I hope you had this fun look at one of those guilty pleasure movies that, you know, you either really, really hate it or love it for the stupidity that it is. And sometimes those are fun to watch. Tell me what you think of Staying Alive, or what your guilty pleasure movie is. I would love to hear some people's guilty pleasure movies that they, for, you know, no reason. You know the movie is terrible, but you love it just because. Tell me what your movie is and what you love about it. Again, I want to thank all of you that have subscribed. I'm almost to 300 subscribers, and my goal this year is 500 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, help me get to that. Everything helps. If you comment, if you like, if you subscribe, and the longer you watch, the better it is for me. Get me out there. It helps YouTube push my content out to other people who might like to watch it. But again, my name is Stacia. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.